Hi, how's it going?
Not bad, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing well, doing well.
Thank you for joining me. I'm really excited for this one.
Yeah, no, me too, me too. I've been looking forward to this all week, so
Oh,
it's good we could
perfect.
find a time, yeah.
Oh, definitely. Oh, sorry about the other day. I managed to get my Wi-Fi sorted eventually.
Oh, no, it's all right. Got it in eventually, but yeah.
So I'll start off with a little introduction, a bit about me and a bit about the podcast, and then if you want to do a little introduction, that would be great. Um, so my name's obviously Zoe. I'm 25 and I have limb-girdle muscular dystrophy type 1B. I currently work in the NHS, but I really wanted to do this podcast because I think when I was younger, I really struggled to kind of accept a lot of things. I think I felt really on my own and I found it a bit difficult trying to navigate, the condition really because I think it is very unique and everybody has a different journey, and I think you do have to adapt things a lot and find your own way. But I felt like this podcast was an opportunity to not only raise awareness but just help other people kind of come across people like them and maybe feel like, oh, if they can do it, we can do it, and just try and shed a bit of a positive light on the condition. Because I think when you go online, there's a lot of you can't do this and you'll lose this, and but you don't always get to see a lot of positive examples of people just living their life really.
Oh, absolutely. No, 100% agree. And I think it can be quite isolating as well, dealing with this sort of condition. So, as you said, if you sort of Google something, it just comes up with the sort of worst case. And
It
I think
does.
I did that later on in my journey, but that I can imagine for people who just get diagnosed, that is like a massive just, kick to the face. You think, oh, okay, my life's kind of over. So I think it's really great that people like you, and I know a lot of people on social media are sort of talking more about their disabilities and sort of the situations they're in, which I think can help a lot of people out there and continue to do so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so do you want to tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm Calvin. I'm 24 at the moment, and I live in Melbourne, Australia. I have muscular dystrophy, like yourself, Zoe, except I have a form called FSHD, which
Mm-hmm.
stands for facioscapulohumeral dystrophy, and that's just a fancy way of saying that my face, shoulder blades, and my upper arm are affected by the condition. But
Mm-hmm.
I've found more so for me anyway that my upper legs have been far more affected than my
Yeah.
upper arms. And I assume this is the case for all sorts of MD, but it's such a so varied between people that it's hard to sort of say, oh, this is going to happen, because it's so different for everyone else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is the fun part of it, I guess. But
You know,
yeah, but I guess for the last 8 months, I've sort of started a new chapter. I like to say, as cheesy as it sounds, I
no, I
started
love
that.
that.
Yeah, I started that YouTube channel called Dutability, and I've just been posting a bit about my life and what I get up to as someone who lives with muscular dystrophy. That has sort of led me to have a lot of really cool opportunities. I've met some really great people. So you're a great example. Like, I never would have met you or had this opportunity if I hadn't have started that. So I'm very glad that happened. But I
Me
guess
too.
also from there. Sorry, you go.
No, me too. I'm just
Oh,
saying, I'm
yeah,
really glad
yeah.
that I had the opportunity to meet you. You seem like a really interesting person, especially within the community. And I think your what you're doing is just a really positive example for so many other people in the community and like us.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. It's very kind. But yeah, I think also like getting involved in these sort of opportunities, like more doors open as well. Like, it's sort of exponentially, for me anyway, sort of improved my life from what was quite a dark time. So
Mm-hmm.
it's going well. It's going well. Can't complain.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. I noticed on your social media you talked about being a para athlete, and I really would like to know a little bit more about that.
Okay. Yeah, I probably use that term quite loosely because I guess I play I play para sport. I wouldn't say I'm
Mm.
an athlete yet, but got to fake it till you make it,
You
I
get,
think.
yep.
But yeah, I guess I grew up as quite a sporty kid, so I'd sort of try everything, and tennis was my main sort of love. But the condition progressed a bit to where, I mean, progressed to where it is now, where my legs are kind of out of action more or less. I can still walk around and stuff, but I can't play tennis at all. Um,
Mm.
but I got into, I think I started with table tennis. I want to say October last year, and that was a really amazing sort of experience for me because I sort of wrote off sport after my leg sort of went, so I thought I'd never be able to play again. And then, yeah, I tried that out. It was like para table tennis, so the other people there also had disabilities, which was, I think, really important for me at the time because I hadn't actually met anyone really who had a disability before then. And at that event, there were, we outnumbered the coach who was able bodied. So that was cool. Like, it was nice to be around
Yeah.
more people like that. And then from there, I think I got a bit of confidence having ticked that one off. The sort of first attempt at parasport that I went into wheelchair tennis, which I think was a bigger deal because in table tennis I was standing, and then in tennis I was sitting down, and I don't use a chair normally. So having to hop into one and play tennis was a little bit confronting at first because it was a little bit strange, and kind of it was kind of it showed that I was fully accepting my condition by sort of hopping into a chair. And I guess I made a bigger deal out of that than I probably needed to. But that's sort of what led me to where I am now. And I play twice a week. It's always the absolute highlight of my week. Like, if I miss a session, it kind of bums me out for the rest of the week. So yeah, it's a huge part of my life now, and I've started playing tournaments and stuff. No real success there, but you got to start somewhere, and yeah,
Everybody starts somewhere.
yeah.
But no, that sounds really amazing. I used to play a bit of table tennis, but I had to stop it because I was struggling a bit. But I hadn't looked into doing it, more from a joining disability sports. But I think I'll have to look into that because that would be really enjoyable. And as you say, I think just because your abilities change, it doesn't mean you have to stop playing sports. You just have to find your own little way.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it was something you touched on then about finding um getting into the wheelchair quite confronting, and honestly, I can really relate to that. I got my powered wheelchair when I was, I think, 11, 12, and I could still walk at the time, but it was really difficult because I was a toe walker and pretty much just stood up to transfer and maybe walk around the house a little bit. But it is quite a, I don't know, it's a very daunting thing, isn't it? The first time you sit down in it, I think you just, it's like you're faced with it. You have to think about it. You have to look at it, and you do feel quite out of place when everybody's stood up. You have to look up to talk to everyone, and you sometimes feel like places aren't really made for you, like if the steps or whatever. And I do think it's a bit of a journey of acceptance when you first get in one. And I mean, some people adapt quicker than others, but I do think it is quite a personal journey. I mean, it's taken me, oh God, years, to be honest, to feel comfortable with going out in it and, being in it.
Yeah, and I think something that you mentioned, I think in a previous episode of your podcast, was that just at a glance, it's not obvious that you have a disability. So I think, I don't know, I'd like to think I'm the same, but I also I'm quite self-conscious about moving differently or like looking a little bit off. But I think, yeah, once you hop in a chair, you're kind of, telegraphing that to everyone. Like you're saying, hey, look, yeah, I do have a disability, and they can see that. Whereas in day to day life and sort of just walking around, people aren't probably thinking, oh, look at that guy with a disability. So I think it is quite a big moment, sort of showing that off to the world. At least it was for me. But yeah,
No, definitely. I mean, like you, I sometimes certain ways that I move, I can feel self conscious about it. Like, I really struggle. If I'm sat down and I need to get up, I struggle a bit, and I've always felt quite self conscious if I'm out and about and I'm like, oh no, I've got to stand up now. Because you do sometimes feel like it's almost like people look and think, oh, that there's a difficulty there. And
yeah,
yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it?
it is. It is. And I guess you have that sort of feeling like everyone's looking at you, and they might think about it for, 2 or 3 seconds, but I'm sure they forget about you straight away. But for me,
Yeah.
I think about that for a little bit after that experience. I'm like, oh, did they notice that I kind of got up weirdly, or that I sort of stumbled a little bit? Like, oh, no one cares, but
No,
yeah,
honestly, I realized in a later point that most of the time people don't even notice it. Like, we're so in our heads about it because it's us, but when I'd like ask people at a later date, they'd be like, "Ooh, we're not even we're not even bothered." Like,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
it is
Yeah, I
quite
think
a
it's
personal thing.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think I don't know if you're the same as me, but when I told my friends for the first time about my condition or like things that I was dealing with, a lot of them sort of had no idea. Like they didn't really pick up on it at all. And I was like, wow, like this has been like a massive part of like I've been dealing with this and I've been so self-conscious about how I'm moving and they just didn't realize at all. So it just feels like a lot of like wasted time thinking about it or overthinking it. So, oh well.
Yeah, I found there were definitely quite a lot of people that I knew that didn't know quite a lot about my condition because mine it affects like every muscle in my body. But I think a lot of the time when I'd say, "Oh, I'd struggled with this," or "This is affected," a lot of people were like, "We had no idea. Like we thought it was just one dimensional in this aspect," and it is. I think we do spend quite a lot of time early on in the journey just worrying about how we're perceived and stuff. But I think that was really another reason why even stuff like your YouTube and podcasts and everything in the community, I think raising awareness and showing that we all take a bit of time to adjust and accept. We don't just wake up, get that diagnosis, and think, right, great, this is us, let's go. You know, we're all kind of in a similar boat, and I think that's quite comforting.
Oh, absolutely. It's nice to feel heard or like can it's nice to relate to or have people relate to things that you go through that you've thought for so long. It's like this is just me. I'm the only person in the world dealing with this. It's like no, there's actually a lot of people who are dealing with this, but you might not have found them yet. So
Definitely.
yeah.
So, in regards to your YouTube, um, like tell me a little bit about that. I'm really interested in that.
Okay. So bit of backstory. So I got diagnosed at 14 with
Mm-hmm.
MD, and for the first couple of years, I didn't really think about it much because I could still do everything I wanted to do. It was sort of my shoulder blades would stick out a bit at the back, so I had a bit of weakness. But apart from that, I could still hang out with my friends and play tennis and everything. So the fact that I got told I had this condition was kind of, oh yeah, whatever. Like, I don't really care. It doesn't affect me at the moment. But then a couple of years later, my legs started to go, and that was a bigger deal. And from there, I think I sort of just stuck my head in the sand for the next, I guess, 8 years. Is that maths working out? we'll go with that. Yeah, the
We'll go
next
with
eight
that.
years or so. Yeah. So it's been about 10 years since I first got diagnosed, and yeah, for most of that time, I've sort of just tried to hide everything about it. I told maybe like a couple of friends, but never wanted to talk about it. I used to, and I guess I still do, like fall over and have a lot of sort of troubles with mobility that I didn't want to talk about at all. And it was just something that was on my mind, sort of like, I guess, like 24/7. And it was getting a little bit unbearable to not share this sort of massive part of my life. So, what I did is on, I think it was New Year's Eve last year, so sort of start of this year, I posted that first video just talking about, it was kind of sort of a coming out experience for me, saying, hey, I'm Calvin, I have this disability, this is what it is, and this is how it's affecting me and what I'm doing about it. And that was the start of the channel, and quite a confronting thing as well, because I hadn't told anyone, so like maybe a few people knew, and then all of a sudden, all my friends knew. I posted it on Instagram, so like everyone who was following me, and then by extension, I guess if they shared it with anyone else. So suddenly, I went from like two or three people knowing to like hundreds of people had seen this video of, my big secret. So
Yeah.
that was, yeah, that was it was a nice release from all that, I guess, anxiety and stress I had built up. But since then, it's been the best thing I've done to open up about it and start posting videos. It's been a good sort of way to try out a lot of new things. Like a lot of my videos are kind of random. Like it's kind of, I'm the one doing them, but where I'm trying out things that aren't exactly related to my disability. So I think the last video I was making chocolate and talking about stuff. Like it's not related to that at all. But I guess it's because it's coming from me that it's related to disability, and that's something that I guess I try to do with the channel. Like the idea, I think I've said, is to like show people with, I guess, muscular dystrophy, or more broadly, people with disabilities, that you can still go out and do some amazing things. So I guess that's sort of what the channel is for me at the moment. Yeah.
I really like that because I think you're so right in the sense of when you put yourself out there in that way, as much as your muscular dystrophy, it is an aspect of your life. You don't want to just make everything revolve around it. You want to just, because it is only a small aspect of our lives, but it's not who we are. We still live, you know, a relatively normal life. We just have to find our own little way of doing things. And I think it's so nice to do videos that are about like whatever, like making chocolate, and that just being, what it is, and not being like, well, I've got muscular dystrophy and that's what this is. And it's nice just for other people to see that actually it doesn't define you.
No, not at all. Not at all. And like, have you found that people around you have treated you differently once they find out that you have muscular dystrophy?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, so a little bit. When I was younger, kind of teenage years, so my condition's gone quite up and down in regards to like severity and like even visibility. And I think there was definitely a part like when I'd make new friends in high school, and I think a lot of them didn't really know. It was almost like they thought I was going to break. Like if they hugged me, or sometimes they'd get nervous about inviting me places because they think, oh, well, can you do it? And it definitely took certain people a while to just kind of get used to it and figure out, like, well, it doesn't it doesn't really change her. We can still do all these things. She might not come ice skating, but she
Mm.
can cheer us on from the side
Yeah.
type. Um, but yeah, and I think I'm very lucky that I've got a partner that even from the day Dot, he never he never treated me differently, and I think that was probably the most refreshing relationship where I felt like someone just didn't ever treat me any different. I really truly feel like he just sees me for me, and it's almost like it's just this little thing in a box, and it's not even a big deal. But how did you feel people reacted around you? Did you feel like people treated you a bit different?
I think because I left it so late to actually tell anyone about it, I think they kind of, I mean, some of my friends could sort of tell that there's something going on, but they didn't really know what it was. But I have such a close group of friends there's quite a lot of us from high school. I think it's like 10 of us that are all quite close. And they haven't treated me differently at all, at least not in a negative way.
Yeah.
Since I started talking about my condition, they've been nothing but supportive. So they all follow the YouTube channel, and they comment. Some of them like share the videos. They get down to some of my tennis matches. Like they've been
Oh,
really amazing. And it's also been great to, I guess, just talk about what is the biggest part of my life, having this disability with them. Like it's been great to sort of openly discuss stuff I'm dealing with, and they're always really happy to sort of say, like how can I help, or what can I do. But I don't think they've treated me any differently. It's been the communication has been better in
mm-hmm.
terms of I'm slowly getting better at saying when I can't do something, because for so long I've had to pretend that I can.
Yeah.
So it's nice to finally say, oh, like, guys, I don't think I can make the end of this hike. Like we went down to the beach a month or two ago, and we went on a hike, made it halfway through, and I sort of said, guys, like I'm not going to make it up the rest of this hill, so I might head back. And I had a couple of friends who stayed with me and walked back, and it's just those little things where they sort of sacrifice maybe a little bit of their enjoyment just to help me out, and that really means a lot for me. So yeah, I wouldn't trade them for anything. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I think it's so important and makes such a difference when you've got that core group of friends. I'm very lucky that all of my close friends, we've all been friends for, oh gosh, more than 10 years now, and probably like yourself, we've grown up together. And I think because they've seen me through a lot of different like moments in my health, I think now I just feel really lucky that they've always been so supportive. I mean, whenever I used to be in hospital, they'd all come and see me, and it was just that nice feeling to kind of know that, as you say, they'd sacrifice sometimes a bit of their enjoyment just to come and show their support for you. And they've all been really great following this podcast and listening and supporting it, because I think it's also, but they all kind of realise that it's been a big thing putting myself out there in such a vulnerable way. Because, like
Mm.
you, I used to hide a lot or just kind of keep things a bit behind closed doors, because that's where it felt safer for me. I'm not good at feeling vulnerable, and I think letting that wall down and letting people in was quite scary. But with all the support from my friends and family, it really helped me feel like, okay, now's the time. I think I can be honest and just be me out there.
Oh, yeah, and I think what you're doing as well by having these people on or telling these stories is you're really helping out, like people who need that, or people who need that sort of those stories told. They need that information. They just need to hear someone else who's going through the same thing. And I think,
I agree.
um, yeah, the fact that I'm seeing more and more sort of like podcasts and social media pages pop up, I think is like a really positive thing for the community.
I agree. I'm really enjoying seeing all these podcasts and everything pop up, because I think 10 years ago, I really would have loved to have seen people like me on social media and just to feel like, wow, okay, someone gets it, someone else is experiencing the same highs and lows, and it's just nice to feel a part of a community that gets it. And yeah, because it is quite a unique journey, definitely. Um, what was I? What I was going to say? Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of friends, I actually was probably going to do like a friends episode with a couple of my closest friends to ask them really from their perspective. You know, what was it like when I told them, and how do they find when we go out, and you know, like what's it like from their perspective? Because as you say, I think when you are quite young and you first start making friends, you do worry like, oh, is it gonna be a big deal? Are they gonna be bothered? Are they gonna like me? And so to hear a friend's perspective of being like, actually, it's not a big deal, you know, you're just you, I think would be really nice and refreshing to hear for people.
Definitely. And I think even uh, people who follow your podcast who don't have a disability but have a friend who does, they can sort of take what your friends say on board and go, oh, okay, so that's how I could handle that situation or support my friend in the best way possible.
I agree. I think the more you can never have too much information, can you? And I think, as you say, it could even help other friends know, like, oh, how do I handle this situation? How best communicate? All those things. Oh, is so another question, and it's a question I always ask people on my podcast. But is there anything? Let's say someone really young, newly diagnosed, was watching this podcast, is there anything you would really like them to know or you'd really like to say to them? I know it's a big question, no pressure.
Yeah. Just trying to think of what I would have liked to hear at the time. I think if you're diagnosed sort of young, I'd sort of just try to enjoy being young, if that makes sense. So like I got diagnosed at 14, and I think if I sort of went straight into, action mode, like I need to do all this and like, find out all this information, and I think it would have probably been a bit overwhelming for me. And I think I needed those years, at least sort of like up until I was about 16, just to enjoy being like a kid and just have those years where I can just, enjoy not having to worry too much about my future. Because I think that is something, especially with a progressive condition, that can be quite scary. Is like wondering what the future will look like because it's not, well, I guess it's not going to stay completely, static for
Mm-hmm.
your whole life. Would be nice if so, though.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess that's what I'd say. If you're diagnosed a little bit older, just I think no, it's not the end of the world. Like if you see people who have your condition like going out and doing great things, like I've seen uh, some people with FSHD specifically who are in really cool jobs. They're doing really amazing things. I think that's really important. Just seeing people, and that's why I think it's good that you're doing this and I'm trying to do this as well, just to show people that you know it's not just the end of the world once you get a diagnosis. It's just something that you'll have to live with, I guess. But
That
I don't
was
know if that's
really,
useful.
no, honestly, I couldn't have put that any better. And I can really agree with that. Um, I think when I was, so I got my official diagnosis at 12, but I was sort of told that, yeah, you've got a muscular condition at about 8. And I was really glad that my parents kind of shielded me a bit from worrying about, you know, what is the future going to look like. And I just enjoyed being young and being able to do things while I could. And I think, as you say, if I'd have gone straight into worrying about, you know, what is it going to be like in 10 years, I think it would have really just been overwhelming. And to be honest, everything, turned out all right. I mean, I'm 25, I live with my partner, I'm getting married, I've got a little dog, like everything, it's okay. And even though my health maybe isn't what it was, it's not the end of the world, I wouldn't say it takes away any of my happiness. We all have bad days. I get frustrated. I get fed up when I don't feel great. But then the next day, I'm just back to life and just trying to make the best of every day, really. And I think that's all you can really do. I mean, being angry all the time or worrying, it's not going to make it go away at the end of the day, is it? I
No,
wish it
no, no,
would.
not at all. Yeah, yeah, that'd be nice, but
So
yeah,
no, I think all we can do is just what we're doing and just live life and yeah, make the best of it. And I think something that really does make a difference, as we've said, is just having good support around you. I think every battle doesn't feel as heavy in whatever aspect in life for people when you've got a good support network around you.
absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I also think that, as you said, like getting angry at the condition doesn't really do anything. Like I think I did that a bit when I was a bit younger, but like everyone has challenges. It's not as if it's like people with muscular dystrophy and people without it, and like people without it are having the best time ever. It's like it's just not how it works. Like everyone's got something
No,
going on. Ours is just, I guess a little bit visible sometimes. Like you just got to deal with it like anything else. So
definitely. Well, thank you, Calvin, for coming on. Honestly, I've really enjoyed our chat, and I feel like I've learned a lot about you and about what you're doing with your YouTube. And I will definitely be keeping up with it because I am really interested in it, and I think it's just amazing what you're doing.
oh, that's so kind. No, thank you, Zoe. No, I've had a great time talking to you and getting to know you.